Singapore is a small urban nation with around 1% of our land set aside for agriculture. Where can we grow our food? In 2019, the Singapore Food Agency put forward an ambitious goal for sustainable food security in Singapore.
30 by 30.
30 by 30.
30 by 30.
Currently, less than 10% of our nutritional needs are produced locally. SFA aims to increase local production to meet 30% of Singapore's nutritional needs by 2030. Aquaculture is a pillar of Singapore's agri-food industry, striving towards this goal by employing climate-resilient, resource-efficient, and sustainable technologies. At the forefront of these innovations is a vibrant R&D ecosystem, comprising institutes of higher learning and research facilities, working to ensure that technology paves the way ahead for the aquaculture industry. The Singapore Food Agency has supported both land-based farms as well as coastal farms in a sea of ways, from co-funding R&D to supporting the adoption of new technology and future-ready solutions. By utilizing innovation, technology, and research to maximize efficiency and productivity in our offshore and land-based farms, we will be able to grow more with less and achieve our 30 by 30 goal, bringing Singaporeans a safe and secure supply of food for years to come. Singapore is a small urban nation with around 1% of our land set aside for agriculture. Where can we grow our food? In 2019, the Singapore Food Agency put forward an ambitious goal for sustainable food security in Singapore.
30 by 30.
30 by 30.
30 by 30.
Currently, less than 10% of our nutritional needs are produced locally. SFA aims to increase local production to meet 30% of Singapore's nutritional needs by 2030. Aquaculture is a pillar of Singapore's agri-food industry, striving towards this goal by employing climate-resilient, resource-efficient, and sustainable technologies. At the forefront of these innovations is a vibrant R&D ecosystem, comprising institutes of higher learning and research facilities, working to ensure that technology paves the way ahead for the aquaculture industry. The Singapore Food Agency has supported both land-based farms as well as coastal farms in a sea of ways, from co-funding R&D to supporting the adoption of new technology and future-ready solutions. By utilizing innovation, technology, and research to maximize efficiency and productivity in our offshore and land-based farms, we will be able to grow more with less and achieve our 30 by 30 goal, bringing Singaporeans a safe and secure supply of food for years to come. Singapore is a small urban nation with around 1% of our land set aside for agriculture. Where can we grow our food? In 2019, the Singapore Food Agency put forward an ambitious goal for sustainable food security in Singapore.
30 by 30.
30 by 30.
30 by 30.
Currently, less than 10% of our nutritional needs are produced locally. SFA aims to increase local production to meet 30% of Singapore's nutritional needs by 2030. Aquaculture is a pillar of Singapore's agri-food industry, striving towards this goal by employing climate-resilient, resource-efficient, and sustainable technologies. At the forefront of these innovations is a vibrant R&D ecosystem, comprising institutes of higher learning and research facilities, working to ensure the technology paves the way ahead for the aquaculture industry. The Singapore Food Agency has supported both land-based farms as well as coastal farms in a sea of ways, from co-funding R&D to supporting the adoption of new technology and future-ready solutions. By utilizing innovation, technology, and research to maximize efficiency and productivity in our offshore and land-based farms, we will be able to grow more with less and achieve our 30 by 30 goal, bringing Singaporeans a safe and secure supply of food for years to come. Singapore is a small urban nation with around 1% of our land set aside for agriculture. Where can we grow our food? In 2019, the Singapore Food Agency put forward an ambitious goal for sustainable food security in Singapore.
30 by 30.
30 by 30.
30 by 30.
Currently, less than 10% of our nutritional needs are produced locally. SFA aims to increase local production to meet 30% of Singapore's nutritional needs by 2030. Aquaculture is a pillar of Singapore's agri-food industry, striving towards this goal by employing climate-resilient, resource-efficient, and sustainable technologies. At the forefront of these innovations is a vibrant R&D ecosystem, comprising institutes of higher learning and research facilities, working to ensure the technology paves the way ahead for the aquaculture industry. The Singapore Food Agency has supported both land-based farms as well as coastal farms in a sea of ways, from co-funding R&D to supporting the adoption of new technology and future-ready solutions. By utilizing innovation, technology, and research to maximize efficiency and productivity in our offshore and land-based farms, we will be able to grow more with less and achieve our 30 by 30 goal, bringing Singaporeans a safe and secure supply of food for years to come. Singapore is a small urban nation with around 1% of our land set aside for agriculture. Where can we grow our food? In 2019, the Singapore Food Agency put forward an ambitious goal for sustainable food security in Singapore.
30 by 30.
30 by 30.
30 by 30.
Currently, less than 10% of our nutritional needs are produced locally. SFA aims to increase local production to meet 30% of Singapore's nutritional needs by 2030. Aquaculture is a pillar of Singapore's agri-food industry, striving towards this goal by employing climate-resilient, resource-efficient, and sustainable technologies. At the forefront of these innovations is a vibrant R&D ecosystem, comprising institutes of higher learning and research facilities, working to ensure that technology paves the way ahead for the aquaculture industry. The Singapore Food Agency has supported both land-based farms as well as coastal farms in a sea of ways, from co-funding R&D to supporting the adoption of new technology and future-ready solutions. By utilizing innovation, technology, and research to maximize efficiency and productivity in our offshore and land-based farms, we will be able to grow more with less and achieve our 30 by 30 goal, bringing Singaporeans a safe and secure supply of food for years to come.
That's better. Good morning. Okay, can you hear me? Good morning.
Singapore is a small urban nation with around 1% of our land set aside for agriculture. Where can we grow our food? In 2019, the Singapore Food Agency put forward an ambitious goal for sustainable food security in Singapore.
30 by 30.
30 by 30.
30 by 30.
Currently, less than 10% of our nutritional needs are produced locally. SFA aims to increase local production to meet 30% of Singapore's nutritional needs by 2030. Aquaculture is a pillar of Singapore's agri-food industry, striving towards this goal by employing climate-resilient, resource-efficient, and sustainable technologies. At the forefront of these innovations is a vibrant R&D ecosystem, comprising institutes of higher learning and research facilities, working to ensure that technology paves the way ahead for the aquaculture industry. The Singapore Food Agency has supported both land-based farms as well as coastal farms in a sea of ways, from co-funding R&D to supporting the adoption of new technology and future-ready solutions. By utilizing innovation, technology, and research to maximize efficiency and productivity in our offshore and land-based farms, we will be able to grow more with less and achieve our 30 by 30 goal, bringing Singaporeans a safe and secure supply of food for years to come.
We're on.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Dr. Leon, you're on to introduce our speakers. Dr. Leong, you can begin now. You are muted.
Thank you, Dr. Farshad. I'd like to say hello and to welcome everyone to this web seminar in Singapore. Our theme for this seminar is Next Generation, Aquaculture, Innovation and Sustainability Will Feed the World. This theme is particularly appropriate today, given that global trends point to a world that's currently struggling to feed itself. With regard to our food security, challenges such as global population growth, climate change, resource scarcity, and urbanization are just some of the problems that we face today. Food security is a major concern in Singapore, given our small size and lack of agricultural land. Therefore, we were delighted when the World Aquaculture Society decided to hold World Aquaculture 2020 in Singapore. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the conference had been postponed to June 2021. Nevertheless, we are pleased to report that the number of COVID-19 cases in Singapore have fallen to very low numbers. The introduction of vaccines for COVID-19, we look forward to hosting World Aquaculture 2020 in Singapore next year. I'd like to extend invitations to everyone to join us from 14 to 18 June 2021 in Singapore for the World Aquaculture Conference. In keeping with today's theme, we have two presentations, the first on adapting to change and the second on aquaculture, technologies and intensive systems of food security. These topics are never more appropriate than they are today given the global food supply situation that we face. With that being said, let me now introduce the first presenter, Dr. Mattias Halwart. Dr. Halwart is from the Food and Agriculture Organization, or more commonly known as the FAO. Dr. Halwart heads the Aquaculture branch of the FAO Fisheries and Agriculture Department and oversees the implementation and development of its work program. He serves as the Technical Secretary of the FAO Committee on Fisheries, Subcommittee on Aquaculture. He's also the Secretary of the Working Group on Aquatic Genetic Resources. Prior to this, Dr. Halwart worked as the Senior Program Coordinator for FAO's cross-cutting Sustainable Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries Program. During his professional career, Dr. Halwart has covered a whole broad range of subjects, predominantly in the fields of general aquaculture development, farming systems, biodiversity conservation, and sustainable use, as well as integrated agriculture aquaculture, where he obtained his PhD. Over the past decades, Dr. Halwart has supported aquaculture development through many projects, mainly in Asia and Africa, and through his strategic contribution, shaping the aquaculture pillar of FAO's Blue Growth Initiative. His professional achievements include numerous publications and coordination of major studies and reviews on topics in aquaculture, such as aquaculture in rice-based farming systems, global and regional cage aquaculture. He is the aquaculture subject editor of the journal Nature Conversation. For his dedication and commitment to participatory and non-formal education, Dr. Halwart has been awarded the Gold Medal of the Asian Fisheries Society. So please welcome our first presenter, Dr. Mattias Halwart. Dr. Halwart, you have the mic.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you out there. It's a great pleasure to be here and present at this World Aquaculture 2020 webinar series organized by the World Aquaculture Society and the Singapore Food Agency. Let me share my screen for the presentation. It's my pleasure today to talk about aquaculture adapting to change. What are the lessons from the regional and global aquaculture reviews 2020? And my name is Mattias Halwart. I'm the head of the aquaculture branch at the Fisheries Division in FAO in Rome, in Italy. And it's a real pleasure to be here and to be speaking to you. I know that the WAS audience is quite broad and diverse, a bit like aquaculture itself. And I also expect that each year many new young people and students and scientists and whatnot join and are part of this important event. And therefore, particularly for these newcomers, I would like to start with a very brief introduction about FAO as an organization and what role aquaculture plays in it, but then move quickly to one of our key activities, and which is the reviews of the regional and global aquaculture, and what lessons and options for the way forward we have synthesized from these. Then share with you how we believe aquaculture can make a substantial contribution to the 2030 agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals, and conclude then by reaching out to you and invite your contributions to this important process of contributing to the SDGs. So let me change to the next slide. So briefly about the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. Actually, in this difficult year, 2020, we also had some bright moments and reason for celebration. And in the case of FAO, we turned 75 years old. And what you see here on the middle of the screen is the Colosseum in Rome illuminated on this occasion. FAO was founded in October 1945 in Quebec with 40 nations forming it. It then moved shortly thereafter to Rome with its new headquarters, where it has remained since. The goal of the organization is to achieve food security for all and to ensure that people have regular access to enough high quality food to lead active and healthy lives. And we now have a reach of 194 member states and are active in over 130 countries, as you can see on the map that is depicted here on the right lower side of the screen. So let's take a closer look at what role aquaculture can play in the future and in FAO. And here we have a vision, and the vision is a world in which responsible and sustainable use of fisheries and aquaculture resources makes an appreciable contribution to human well-being, to food security and poverty alleviation. And that already shows you that we are very much seeing aquaculture as part of a broader food systems perspective. The major tasks that we perform in FAO in relation to aquaculture are data collection and analysis, the development of global knowledge products such as technical guidelines, but also advice and guidance such as the Code of Conduct for Responsible Fisheries, which also has a celebration this year of 25 years. And facilitation of knowledge exchange and global negotiation. And this we do in the form of convening international conferences, meetings, and intergovernmental fora. So what I would like to focus on today is this first major task, the collection and analysis of data. And I will talk about this process of regional and global reviews of aquaculture, which we have been starting in 1995 and have performed regularly every 5 years, For the whole globe, 6 regions in the world, and synthesizing the information into a global overview, which covers very much the aquaculture status, the development and trends on a regional and global basis. The detailed reviews are summarized with key messages and options for the way forward, and this is what I will present to you today. The reviews in 2020 are aligned with our global conference on aquaculture, which we hold every 10 years, but more on that later. What I would like to do now is show you the faces and the names behind these regional and the reviews and the global synthesis. These are our world-known and leading experts that have guided the process and prepared those documents on the basis of various sources of data, including information from the FAO State of the World Fisheries and Aquaculture, our database Fish.J, from academic literature, from agricultural databases such as FAO Stat, other FAO and UN publications, and of course supplemented with expert views and opinions from FAO staff and other experts around the globe. And we are very grateful to all our experts that have guided and led this process. And you may have heard some of them in the October webinar that we did, and that is also available online. Now, let's come to the 10 key messages that were synthesized from the regional reviews. Key message 1. Aquaculture has continued to grow over the years and the decades, and really we must ensure that it will do so in the foreseeable future. Capture fisheries has been stable, and aquaculture has been growing, filling the supply-demand gap that we also expect to have in the future. In 2018, which are the latest available data to us, over 114 million tons were produced by aquaculture worldwide, valued at over $260 billion US. And this is composed of aquatic animals with over 82 million tons and aquatic plants with over 32 million tons, mostly seaweeds. Now, aquaculture contributes now over 50% of the aquatic food that we consume, and Asia, and within Asia, China is the top producer. Asia really is the powerhouse of production. But overall, around the globe, it's the developing countries that continue to produce the majority of farmed aquatic species, and a few developed countries are also strong producers. In some areas, like Northern America and Oceania, production has leveled. However, policies are in place to increase production. And the food fish supply increases in all regions, but in Africa. And this is reason for much concern, and this is why we have to pay a lot of attention to the African region. FAO and also other institutions' predictions widely agree that there will be a supply-demand gap in the future, and that aquaculture will have to be the sector that continues to grow and to fill that gap. The second key message extracted from these reviews is that it's external factors that increasingly impact the sector. So whilst in the past, the growing aquaculture sector had to address predominantly internal factors, it is now the external ones that are important, and we must deal with them by being better prepared to respond to crises and emergencies. And whilst when we started with the reviews, it was climate change identified as the most important external factor. Of course, now it is the COVID-19 pandemic that has severely impacted the sector. But recognizing that impacts depend very much on the local environment and on the capacity to adapt. But there have been disruptions of supply chains and also sometimes inadequate information about fish products that have led to impacts. And it's difficult to evaluate at this point when we are still in the middle of the pandemic and cannot really say what is going to happen in the future. But the case of China gives us a lot of hope because there actually the production has come back and after being severely affected now has come back and is running again at full speed. Now, there are differences in impacts and also in response between global events such as climate change and COVID-19 versus local events. This could be like events like fires, but also local tsunamis or pollution. And if you think about things like bushfires as they are experienced in the States or in Australia, and where maybe in the past there was international help being mobilized, things like this are not possible at the moment. Environmental problems persist, pollution and habitat degradation being two of them, and they impact the success of aquaculture, but of course also of other food systems. Now, the options for the way ahead here is that there is really a need to create a more resilient and vital sector that is capable of dealing with these increasingly important external factors. And all the reviews were unanimous in the conclusion that really it's disaster preparedness that needs to be increased and emergency responses in aquaculture planning and management that have to be in place. The third key message, aquaculture is diverse. It's diverse in terms of farming systems, where we see cages, ponds, raceways, intensive recirculation systems, all the way to low input, extensive systems, and also large and small scale operations. We have difference in environments and habitats, ranging all the way from temperate oceans to tropical rice fields. There is a huge variety of aquatic species comprising fish, mollusks, crustaceans, echinoderms, vascular plants, importantly seaweeds, but also microorganisms. And this diversity in itself has a lot of opportunities, but also challenges when it comes to the husbandry and farming. And then there are regional differences. The aquaculture development and management need to be very much area and region specific and dependent on the local resources there, the local environment, local capacity, and the integration with other systems of food production and national priorities is important. So in terms of options for the way ahead, the diversity that we see now should really be maintained to ensure that these diverse systems and these diverse species are actually appropriate for local conditions, for local market access, and for this increased resilience that we so much need and the sector so much needs. Large and small-scale aquaculture should be treated equitably by governments and international development communities. And this is a very important point because it's the small-scale producers that often suffer the most and that do need our help. And then finally, regional approaches should be made with caution and emphasis, emphasis should be on regional cooperation and on harmonization of policies where appropriate. The fourth key message relates to trade in aquaculture products, which is important and also diverse, both within and among regions, and which needs better information in order to do better. Seafood is one of the world's largest traded commodities, and we have strong regional differences there. In Europe and also in the US, fish and fish products must be imported to a large extent. In sub-Saharan Africa, most fish are produced and consumed locally and within the region, whereas in Latin America, the majority of aquaculture products are exported. The demand for convenience foods and frozen and pre-packaged foods we see rising. In some regions, there is a lot of scope to do better with that regard, like North Africa and Near East and the Sub-Saharan Africa region. Their aquaculture products are often marketed fresh and unprocessed with little value adding. Many of the regional reviews were saying that the trade statistics were noted to be incomplete, and they often do not distinguish the farmed from the captured species. In terms of options for the way ahead, we should enhance access to mechanisms that help provide accurate information to policymakers and consumers. And here things like the InfoFish network or the Globefish trade publications were noted to be particularly helpful. We need to encourage access to new information technology to increase the flow and the accuracy of information, and digital agriculture and digital aquaculture with the more use of cell phones and more use of digital information is something that will be looked at much closer in the future, also at FAO. And finally, we need to examine and promote the benefits of value adding, because a lot of profit can be gained here. The fifth, market tools to promote sustainability have potential, but more is needed. Now, the salient issues here were that trade requirements and eco-labeling and certification schemes are useful market tools to promote environmental and societal benefits, but the question was raised as to how effective they are, because in some places certified aquaculture products do command a higher price, and the value of certified products is actually increasing, and an example of that is Atlantic salmon. But for some other species, maybe lower valued species like carp, this certification has not worked so well, as consumers are not willing to pay the higher prices. So there are concerns actually that the requirements are too high for smallholders, and particularly in rural areas, and that therefore there is a difficulty for their access to the markets. In terms of options for the way ahead, the international guidelines that are out there, and there's quite a number of them, and important ones like the technical guidelines on aquaculture certification, they should really be promoted more and applied more. At the same time, market and consumer studies should be conducted to examine critically the efficacy and impact of certification and eco-labeling, and develop mechanisms to ensure, and we should develop mechanisms to ensure that smallholders are not adversely impacted. When we come to the key message number 6, that is that aquaculture stakeholders need to proactively work to improve its image, and the emphasis on is on proactively. So the salient issues here are that aquaculture suffers from poor public perception in some regions, and social license issues and poor public perception of the sector are restricting the development. There are environmental concerns, there are animal welfare concerns, human health aspects, access to resources such as land and water, economic concerns from competing sectors such as capture fisheries. Now, the options for the way ahead here are to emphasize and improve the environmental and the social sustainability, and to use frameworks such as the SDGs or the One Health approach that is shown here on the upper right side, to show how aquaculture is a vital and necessary component of the overall food basket that really benefits so many stakeholders and also society through better food security, through better nutrition, and through income generation. And the engagement of other sectors and other stakeholders is very important in this regard. This is a point which I trust needs no further explanation. On the key message number 7, aquaculture produces nutritious and safe food. Well, the salient issues that were synthesized from the reviews here were that fish is such a good source of not only good proteins, but it's a unique source of many essential nutrients, including long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, iodine, vitamin D, calcium, and many others. Aquaculture does provide a steady and affordable supply of food fish, and it can meet the criteria for food security in many cases, in many areas, much better than other sectors can. And several reviews and recent studies indicated that aquaculture products, often fillets or larger fish, are not providing nutrition at local levels. And this is something we need to be concerned with, because if aquaculture is only done for export and for exporting the larger fillets, then it cannot provide the necessary benefits at local level. The options for the way ahead here are to mainstream nutrition in aquaculture development policies, and I would say also vice versa, to engage and promote the concept of sustainable food systems and value chains, and promote a diversified consumption of these many species and products, and to further develop means to increase the nutrition of farmed fish. And that could be achieved, for example, through enriched feeds, but also through genetic selection and improvement techniques, or simply the selection of suitable species with a higher nutrient content where this option exists. Let's move to the 8th key message. Aquaculture can and should provide decent employment. Well, the salient issues here are that in aquaculture, more than 20 million people are employed, mostly in the post-harvest sector and in aquaculture operations, and interestingly also in areas where other options are not as much available. In some of the regions, there were problems reported in regards to workers' rights, in regards to occupational safety and health, and also access to resources and value chains. Now, women play an important role in all parts of the value chain, and especially in the processing, and a relatively higher percentage of women is involved in aquaculture than in capture fisheries, and this is good and should be further strengthened. Now, with regard to the options for the way ahead, aquaculture provides decent employment, and we should examine the women's role in the value chain and follow that up with good policy actions. Providing opportunities and employment for women also results in empowerment for women, because they will be taking their better knowledge back to their homes, to their families, for increased benefits of the nutrition of the family members. When it comes to human and workers' rights, to occupational health and safety, but also to gender access, we need respect and for these aspects, and that especially gender and youth access are protected. Coming to key message number 9, innovation increases efficiency and is essential to further increase efficiency in the future. Among the salient issues that were synthesized are disease diagnosis and treatment, which are improving, whilst at the same time, thanks to innovative technologies, antibiotic use is decreasing. Genetic technologies are around, they exist, although they are not being fully used, and there's a lot to be gained from applying basic genetic technologies such as simple selective breeding. Improved farming systems are present, such as recirculating systems or integrated multi-trophic aquaculture systems. There are digital technologies around now which increase and improve our data and information systems and situation. And the fish percentage in feeds has been reduced, and we now see products on the market that have, for example, to a large extent already replaced fish oil in the feeds with algae oil, for example, which is an excellent move ahead. Now, on the options for the way ahead, we need to improve the local capacity building and the technology transfer. The promotion of realistic advantages of new technologies should be made, and the emphasis here is on realistic advantages. It has to be technologies that are also accessible and usable by our main producers in developing countries and all those small-scale farmers that produce the bulk of aquaculture. We need to assist small-scale and rural farmers that they have access to innovation. The ecosystem benefits of aquaculture need to be better examined. And at the same time, we should not abandon proven technologies, but rather build on them and improve them as we go along. Now, again, as it comes to the replacement of fish in aqua feeds, this is a good development, but at the same time, this whole discussion should not unduly impact the responsible use of fish, and we should analyze trade-offs and communicate these trade-offs. Now, finally, the 10th key message is good governance is increasing, but more is needed. And the salient issues here are that, as you can see on the diagram here, aquaculture is just one part within the broader ecosystem and environment, and unfortunately often not well integrated into national policies, because very often it is a newcomer to this environment. And this means that planning, zoning, and environmental impact analysis really are needed to help the sustainability of the sector, but also the social acceptance, because it's being scrutinized as a latecomer. It's being scrutinized very much. And in some regions, the regulatory burden on aquaculture as a new sector is very high. So the options for the way ahead then are really that policies should be harmonized within ministries and among countries and among those sectors that jointly use certain areas where aquaculture should have its rightful place. Aquaculture should be integrated into national development strategies, and it's through farmer associations and producer associations that a stronger representation can be made to decision makers. The value of aquaculture should be widely communicated, and especially the strong and good nutritional aspects. We should strengthen intergovernmental collaboration on aquaculture and especially on governance at the level of, for example, the COFI subcommittee on aquaculture and at other intergovernmental fora, for example, at the network of aquaculture centers for Asia Pacific and their statutory body meetings. So all of this actually means that aquaculture can do quite a lot in helping achieve the Agenda 2030, its SDGs, and other international commitments. Aquaculture is directly contributing to a number of SDGs, importantly 1, 2, and 14, but many others, and indirectly to many more. Each region in this regard has its own opportunities and challenges, and there are new ways of viewing and promoting and analyzing food systems that are emerging and that actually look beyond the tons produced and the dollars sold, and instead focus on positive outcomes for local communities in the form of nutrition and food security. And this is something where much more can be done, and we need to assess and enable aquaculture development in terms of the direct and indirect implementation of and contribution to the SDGs. So what we saw in the regional reviews and the synthesis was a call for global and regional organizations maybe to look for new indicators that go beyond, as I said before, the kilograms and the dollars, but recognize that health and environment and as maybe in nutrition sensitive agriculture, in this concept along with social and economic viability are so important and should be prioritized. Now, the question is, how can we maximize aquaculture's contribution to the SDGs? And as much as we appreciate and value the invitation of being at the meeting of WAS like the one today, we would very much like to reciprocate and also invite WAS members and others to an important event we are organizing every 10 years with our partner NACA, and this year with our host being China and the host being the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs of the People's Republic of China. No one can achieve the SDGs alone. Partnership and working together is so important. So join us at this global conference in September 22 to 27, September 21 in Shanghai, China. It will be a hybrid conference, will be free for all, will be open to interested stakeholders. And the website you can see here, it's aquaculture2020.org. Registration will open this week, and you are cordially invited to be there. So with this, I would like to thank you once again, thank the World Aquaculture Society for the kind invitation, and thank all of you for your attention, for being with me throughout this somewhat long talk. And I wish you good proceedings and look forward to the comments and questions that you may have. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Halwart. Our second presenter today is Dr. Farshad Shishehchian. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Dr. Farshad is a successful entrepreneur and also someone I've worked with whom I know well. In fact, he's sitting next to me today. Dr. Farshad has more than 30 years of dynamic hands-on experience managing aquaculture farms and hatcheries in different countries. He's the founder of the Blue Aqua International Group, a one-stop provider for the aquaculture industry with a global presence in 14 countries. He started Dr. Shrimp, a center of excellence in shrimp farming. Dr. Shrimp leverages on the group's expertise and knowledge in shrimp farming, be consolidated on its online platform, drshrimp.com, where the latest research findings and practical solutions on shrimp farming are published. Dr. Shrimp also offers targeted solutions, consultancy services for shrimp farmers globally. An extension of the site allows users to purchase products, feed, equipment, and even post-larval shrimp online. Dr. Farshad is also an inventor of the highly commended mixotrophic system, a super intensive shrimp and fish farming system, and multi-species super intensive zero waste green RAS, which I understand is waiting for a patent. Yes. Dr. Farshad is the founder and chief editor of the Asian Aquaculture Network. This is a regional network that was established to share practical, technical information about aquaculture. Its primary focus is to promote sustainable development and profitable practices of aquaculture in Asia. Finally, Dr. Farshad was also the past president of the World Aquaculture Society, Asia Pacific Chapter from 2013 to 2016. He is currently on the board of directors of the Aquaculture Engineering Society. So please welcome our second presenter, Dr. Farshad. Dr. Farshad, please. Thank you.
Good day, everybody. This is Dr. Farshad. I'm the CEO and the founder of the Blue Aqua International Group. Today, I would be talking about the aquaculture technology and super intensive culture system to create food security. Before that, I will just explain very little about where am I coming from. So we have a group of a company, different parts of the world. We are dealing with the farming and supporting the other farmers around the world for aquaculture, especially in the shrimp industry. So we have a very strong hold in shrimp. That's why I have created a center, we call it Dr. Shrimp Center. So this is more about, working on 5 different species of the shrimp that commonly very popular in the world. So we are trying to have the hatchery grow out, and also we are doing a lot of research on these 5 species. We also working on a different species of the fish, where basically 2 species are our very main focus is a pompano and also jade perch, and also working on the red claw, crayfish and seaweed. We supply our product that we produce in Singapore to different supermarkets and restaurants. Okay, food security. I think this is very interesting topic. A lot of people talk about it. And what is the definition of the food security? I think food security defined by United Nations as all the people at all time have physical, social, and economical access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their food preference and dietary needs for an active and healthy life. This is what United Nations defined food security. And then what really impact today the food security is, of course, we have a climate change. We have a very big growth in our population in the earth. We have an increasing of the food price. We have a lot of environmental stress, and just recently you can see we have a lot of disease outbreaks such as COVID-19 that can change the whole life and living style of humans. If you look at what are the strategy and policy that we have to look at the improving the market and food trade. We have to look at the land use pattern, water allocation, post-harvest food processing, food prices and safety, building local capacity, and also increasing the productivity. I think that increasing the productivity and local capacity are very important. That's what I'm trying to today to address that. And just simply, if you look at the impact of the COVID, that shows that really now after COVID, many countries, many government researchers trying to find a way how aquaculture really can provide affordable and healthy protein. We have many reports from countries such as US, Singapore, Scotland, Canada, and many others that they are trying to push and increase the productivity and the production in aquaculture, because this will help us to be more self-sufficient and we can have a better and sustainable source of the food. Okay, aquaculture. What is aquaculture? If you look at the picture at the bottom right, you can see aquaculture started many years ago, even though those days that people were closed and people do farming. And today we have a lot of development in aquaculture. We have AI in aquaculture. So those days that many years ago, 1,000 years ago, that people in Java and different parts of the world, they were just taking a small part of the tidal area and start to grow some, catch some fish larvae, put it there and just leave it them, and fish just harvest them for an easy catch. Okay. Today we have giant operation around the world. This is one of the largest shrimp farm in the world. Actually, is the largest, 30,000 hectare of farming area in Lampung, Indonesia, which is failed. So it means that something goes wrong somewhere. Okay, we look many different type of the farming people trying to do, like cover with a plastic, looking at indoor, outdoor, small pond, big pond. Like for me, I have done, like we will discuss more about like what we have done in the shrimp. So we try to increase the production and biomass. But the bottom line is what? Is that definitely we have to go for intensification. We have to increase our productivity. We have to improve our production system. And we have to go for intensification, because generally the fishery and capture fishery is declining. And aquaculture must replace the demand that exists in the market. There are different methods that people trying nowadays for the farming beside the traditional farming that we can see all around the world, like such as RAS system with a different component. Then you have a, like I call it like smart farming. They use different tools, different methods, or they have much more complicated system with a lot of sophisticated and complicated cultural system, which is not very easy to really implement in everywhere. So you really need to have very efficient and a lot of educated people to run that kind of system. Then I mean, like for the problem of the temperature, we came up with a very simple idea. So we use like evaporation system in our greenhouse to really lower the temperature of the farm. Or we can use like something like air dome, which no structure, nothing, is very easy. You can just blow up by the air and it can cover very big area. It's very good for biosecurity, very good for the controlling of the environment. All this activity is for one purpose, to increase the carrying capacity of the farming. So carrying capacity means how we can get more biomass from a certain area, certain space. So carrying capacity always limited by the environmental resistance. So basically environmental resistance, such as, I think the most important one is the DO, the oxygen, or like nitrogenous gas or toxic gas or disease, whatever you want to name it. It push down the production. But we always have a biological potential, a potential to grow bigger and bigger. But of course, we can produce like 2,000 ton fish in 1 hectare, or I don't know, or fish or shrimp. So it means that is the limit. So we basically look at the potential and optimum, potential. So Optimum biological potential or optimum carrying capacity is what we are looking for. How we can go there? What do we need to know that? So in my line of work, we came up with an idea, I call it green circulation, from green to clean. So we found a way that how we can, in this part of the world, in a tropical area, which we have many, many different species. So sometimes they are not too expensive even to sell. So how the farmer really can adopt a technology that it doesn't cost them too much and still yet manage to produce more biomass out of that. So if I look at the culture system, so how I divide the culture system in a very simple way people to understand. I make it like water and land. You have shrimp and fish or any other species you grow. You have feed and you have surrounding environment. That's what we have, nothing more than this. But the dynamic and relationship between each one of these sectors, it causes a lot of complication and difficulty to really create a system that is very successful. So when we look at the culture system design, it can be many things. Whatever hold the water, you consider your culture system design. I give you an example of the RAS system here. Or you can have what type of holding water system you have. You have a circular tank or you have a raceway. This is my farm. So some we use a very tall tanks to hold the water. Some we use a very short and like very standard tank. We have a raceway, very long raceway for our shrimp. So it's a different method, but the purpose is still is to hold the animal within the water. Then your system can have many, many components. You have a fish tank, mechanical filter, biological filter, degasser, oxygen enrichment, disinfection, so you can choose whatever you want. But in the method that we are working here, some of these things is not really applied for us. Like we don't do disinfection in line in the system, or I don't need to use the degasser. So we will discuss what we are using here. So some other system you see even more sufficient. You have like foam fractionated or protein skimmer. You have a different you use a ozone. So they are all a system that basically you create a clear water system. So you use a lot of energy to remove the energy from the system. So now, but in my opinion, those additional energy that you are removing from system can fit another species that can help you to clean your system. So in our work, what we did, we have created a very green areas. Means I don't remove phytoplankton, zooplankton, bacteria especially from my system. My system is recirculating. We reduce those parameters that we know that they are pushing down our carrying capacity, but we maintain very natural and green environment. Okay, the key is oxygen. So whatever system you are doing, still oxygen is the key factor. You can't compromise on your oxygen. You need to have a sufficient oxygen in your system. Everywhere, doesn't matter. You do indoor, outdoor, hatchery, whatever you are doing, you cannot save on oxygen. But how much oxygen do I need? That's the key factor. A lot of people, they have very fixed number for that, which I think is not very true. Because oxygen requirement, it really goes by the dynamic of your system. If you have a system with a very highly oxidized system, you need a lot of oxygen. If your system, you have low biomass, you need, of course, less. So it's a very, very subjective. And the supplying of the oxygen, like for us, we are using liquid oxygen. Maybe somebody use a different method. But the point is, you need to have a sufficient oxygen that can dissolve in the water very well to increase the saturation of the oxygen in the water. So which these are very much depend on the salinity, temperature, and a few other factors that really make us to understand how much oxygen I need and how I can mix this oxygen to my system. Second thing is the aeration. Aeration, when you have oxygen, aeration required because you want to move the water. You want to circulate. You want to make the water alive by creating a movement. You can do many things, but we use a blower to really do that for us. We have like certain things like protein skimmer. It's very important, but I don't use protein skimmer in line. I use protein skimmer in a like a closed loop. So but it's very important. Then you come to like some very high tech like AI and all those things. We have a project with the A-Star in Singapore on the determining the biomass of the culture in a green system. It's not so easy. It's very important, but we are working on that for the past, I don't know, 1 year plus 2 years. But I was just seeing that like now in our like day-to-day work, you can see a lot of AI apply in human life. Like this example, people using this, they call it the most human AI for the enterprise. Or we have a underwater robot. We are using 1 or 2 model of these for my tall tanks. But these are becoming more and more popular and important. Measurement of your water quality parameter, inline and online measurement, is very, very important. So we take different parameters to measure. They are very important for us to make a judgment about our system. Okay. But the bottom line, the system that I use is green. I have not only my culture species, which can be shrimp or fish or whatever. We have many other things. We have different microorganisms inside that. We have a lot of bacteria. It's one of the key things we have. We have a phytoplankton. We have zooplankton. So managing this and creating a connection between this water and gas dynamic with a biological, interaction that you can see there is the key factors. And even like for our larvae, we are doing the green system. We can do for fish, we can do for shrimp, it doesn't matter because all of this living in the water. The job is to maintain the good water quality so the animal, they know how they can live there. What we have done, if you want to compare our work so far, we have managed to increase the carrying capacity of the shrimp that we grow from traditionally around 1 to 2 kilo per square meter. We are doing now around 15 to 20 kilo per square meter. And this is, we are doing quite, sometimes we are supplying our animal to different supermarket and restaurants in Singapore. And the quality is extraordinary. It's really good quality animal. So I have a patented system to use for my culture system. We call it mixotrophic system. We have patented this one in 7 countries. I will explain a little bit more about this one later. And then we have another pending for patent. We call it multi-species super intensive zero waste system. So this also I will explain a little bit more about it. So the whole this ideas turning around the circular economy in aquaculture. So we are trying to use the waste of one species for another species, not to change water, not to create waste, and yet to produce sufficient biomass out of all these things. So mixotrophic system is basically about environmental modulation. So we have factors like pH and ORP, very important. Nitrogen phosphor ratio for phytoplankton, CN ratio for autotrophic and heterotrophic bacteria, which sometimes carbon can be organic carbon for heterotroph and inorganic for the autotroph. And we have a lot of bacteria. We manipulate the bacteria by using the probiotic, our own probiotic. And of course, we have a lot of algae. So we have like a balance between energy and nutrient. So what we are doing here, we are doing the nutrient balance. Nutrient balance come very simply, that's why I call it mixotrophic system. Mixotrophic system is a trademark that we have. And it's very simple. It's talking about nitrogen phosphor for bacteria, for phytoplankton. So we try to maintain certain ratio for that, depends on what type of phytoplankton we require. Like you want a green, it's a 30. You want a brown, it's a 10. You want a brownish green, it's 20. And when it comes to this carbon nitrogen ratio, it's very important because usually we don't have much problem with the nitrogen, but we need to supply sufficient carbon. So we apply a lot of sugar and also alkalinity used for us as a source for the autotroph bacteria. Okay. So in our system, the nitrogen cycle very important. I have categorized here the autotrophic and heterotrophic organism. Maybe some people say, oh, how come shrimp and zooplankton are heterotroph? I don't look at that way. I look at that they are utilizing the organic carbon. So we have these two groups, and then when you look at the whole things, the most important cycle we have is the nitrogen cycle. If we manage the nitrogen cycle well, definitely we have a very good system. And that the whole key is here. You know, you must have a good ammonification, you must have a good nitrification, and then assimilation. Because in our system we have a lot of green algae. So the green algae will help you really to reduce your nitrogen and, you know, phosphor from the system. And then we have the factors like pH and ORP, which they are very important, extremely important. I'm sure everybody know what is pH, what is ORP, so I'm not going to explain. And also the nutrition in bacteria, that's what I call it, mixotropy. That's why we trademark as a mixotropy. So we have this ORP has a very close relationship with, you know, nitrification. That's why the maintaining the ORP in our system in a high level is extremely important. And of course, it's a phytoplankton management. So this is some of the ratios that you can see here. Okay. pH, it's very, very important to manage because pH fluctuates through the phytoplankton. So we need to make sure we have a good buffering capacity and we maintain a good number of the phytoplankton. Don't overbloom or underbloom. This is very important because for so many years, many farmers, they try to use calcium, you know, carbonate like lime and dolomite in the system. And I think I started like 10 years ago, I was telling people, don't, it's just wasting money. Because what do you need? Alkalinity has nothing to do with the shrimp. Alkalinity does everything with the nitrification and also with the, basically the buffering capacity of the system. We need a lot of magnesium and calcium in our system. And then probiotic is extremely important. So I have my own probiotics so we apply in our system because by using this probiotic, we basically create a soup of a bacteria that the fish and shrimp swim inside that. So if I want to look at my mixotrophic system in an indoor or outdoor, we look at this way. So at the early culture, we have a lot of phytoplankton bloom. At the end, we have a lot of bacteria bloom. So this is the very simple explanation. Means we take care of the phytoplankton at the beginning because we really don't need too much of bacteria. Still we do have, but we don't push too much because my baby fish or baby shrimp, they need to eat more than they need to get clean. But when you are moving to the end, because your biomass increasing, your feeding ratio increasing, and you need a lot of bacteria to help you to clean and also to prevent the disease. So I have like 3 stages. I call it phytoplanktonic stage. So this phytoplankton stage, we have very good bloom of the algae. So we practice this in the outdoor also for so many years. So we have very good bloom of algae. So you look at the nitrogen phosphor ratio, pH is extremely important. Then when you are moving to the middle of the culture, which really we practice this very well in our indoor system also. So we try to reduce the phytoplankton, we try to increase the number of the bacteria in the system, and at the end of the day, we are pushing to the really very low phytoplankton and a big, you know, number of the CFU for the either heterotroph or autotroph bacteria. And we can even do a different way. Sometimes you just want to have nitrification system, you just use the nitrite spike and cut it down, okay? So generally, when we look at our management, the pond management or RAS management, anything you want to talk, we look at the genetic, disease, feeding, and environment. These are very, very important. So genetic, what type of, because like in my system, a few days ago, I had a presentation for Aquaculture Engineering Society. And then somebody was asking me, okay, how about NO3? I say NO3, really, we don't have much problem. But in my system, the biggest problem I have is the problem of my sizing. I have a broken size a lot because I do very high density. It's not easy to get the same genetic all the time. So you have some animal grow very big, some animal grow very small. So this genetic, it's very important for us. Then it's come to disease. We manage disease by using, of course, we have a very, you know, good bacteria in the system that they don't allow pathogenic bacteria like Vibrio and other growth, but we have biosecurity. So we need to have the biosecurity for the viral disease and others. And actually disease is not only about the infectious disease. We have nutritional disease, we have environmental disease, we have genetically, you know, problem with animal that they have, they consider disease. Then you come feeding. Feeding is extremely important for us because such a high density, you can't just feed a normal feed. That's why we have been developing a super intensive feed in my company for the past 2 years to try to really reach to the requirement of this animal in such a high density. And of course, environment is one of the key things because this is what they are living in. Okay. So in a simple layman term, we have very simple pond preparation, either outdoor and indoor. You have phytoplankton bloom, water quality, probiotic, nutrient balance, and pathogen, separation. Then you look at the, I show you some pictures from outdoor. So this is what we have, 97% or 98% of our aquaculture industry. This is one of the farm we work. So you can see we apply the mixed trophic system in the outdoor also. This is not good. Foam, I like the foam. But when you talk about foam, this is the foam we look. Because foam indicate in outdoor and even indoor that your heterotroph bacteria are working very well. So we have very good, we can practice this in outdoor, but the problem, as I say, is the carrying capacity. Indoor, you have biosecurity, you have a lot of other advantage that basically will help you to, and these things cannot practice in a country like Singapore. We cannot have farm like this. That's what we have developed a farm that it can produce a big amount of the biomass in a very small area of land with a very limited water requirement, with almost zero exchange and reusing of the water. We can use the same water for years and years. We just top up because we can't afford to get water to our system very often. Even my farm is not nearby the sea. So these are like, this is like, you can see, this is like a last stage in our outdoor system that we have a lot of bacteria. And we do a lot of research. We work with the AIC, with the Thammasat Poly, many universities. So we are very glad to have a support of the Singapore.
Thank you everyone for this very nice presentation. Thank you, Farshad. So I'm sitting here with Farshad and Dr. Leon. Dr. Mattias is online with us. We have received already a couple of questions which are published on the question and answer on your screen, and you are welcome to ask for further clarification from the speakers if you need. I'm Mr. Gillette, and I will be supporting you in transferring this question to speakers now. I would like to start with the first question we have received, and that's a question from Mattias. So Mattias, we have a question which is, with the growing marine aquaculture, what is FAO planning to help governments to protect farming from the transfers of pathogens? Mattias?
Yes, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can, Mattias.
Oh, okay, very good. Well, thank you for the question. And first of all, let me say congratulations to World Aquaculture Society and Singapore Food Agency for organizing this event. The question was about the growth of marine aquaculture and transfer of pathogens and what FAO is doing. Well, we have quite a number of activities going on in the field in terms of projects, but also in terms of conceptual framework of how to deal with pathogen transfer. And what it's called, it's the progressive management pathway on aquatic biosecurity. That very much borrows from the agricultural and the livestock sector concept and is being applied to and that is being developed by colleagues, and a lot of capacity building efforts are being done together with partners like, for example, Mississippi State University, but many others. We have reference centers that deal specifically with aquatic biosecurity issues. So there is a lot going on. Aquatic biosecurity is also a subject that is regularly discussed at the Committee on Fisheries, Subcommittee on Aquaculture, which meets every 2 years. And this is an intergovernmental forum, so that member countries are represented there and discuss issues that are of global importance and global significance, and certainly aquatic biosecurity is one of them. But of course, we also have many observers there who can take the floor, can make interventions, and by doing so can inform and, if you like, influence government opinion and the whole discussion and negotiation process that takes place about topics of global interest, such as aquatic biosecurity. Maybe I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mattias, for this clarification. And this is actually a very nice transition, since we are talking about pathogens and all the active work that FAO has been doing. This may maybe explain why we are basically reducing the amount of antibiotic on farms. And Farshad, we have a question from Ivan Abajo for you. You indicate that antibiotics are reducing, but what about the amount of synthetic hormones that we are using, especially in tilapia production? Farshad.
Okay, yeah, very good question. I believe there is a problem here, that we all think that sometimes all these new technologies such as antibiotic and all those things are not really, good. Sometimes it is not about the antibiotic, it's about responsibly using all those, new, like the chemicals or whatever we have. So when we are talking about antibiotic reduce, definitely reduce, but if there is sometimes cases that require to use, if they use it responsibly, if they follow all the regulation, definitely just like human, it's no problem as long as they consider the withdrawal period and everything. Then it's come to the hormone, it's also exactly the same situation. Some of these synthetic hormone, it is not necessary to use, some necessary to use, because if you are going to have a huge production, you cannot make all your fish to, to breed or produce egg in the same time. So we need to apply, but I would rather to say that we should be more responsible and more considerate in using all these chemicals and the drugs, rather than just use it without any guideline.
Thank you very much, Farshad. We have a second question from Royal Bosma. You insist on high-tech innovation, and this needs a very high capital investment, but are there any low-tech intensification for ponds available?
In fact, the system that I was describing today definitely is not a high-tech, like high investment system. In fact, what we have done, we have definitely tried to reduce the cost of the investment. It is a very low, investment system, but it's just about, you have to understand few very important factors. One is your carrying capacity and your target, biomass. That's what we always talk. So you decide what biomass you are looking for, and based on that, you can definitely, set your equipment. There is no such a thing that I don't have any new technology or any investment, and I can, catch or I can harvest a lot of fish from my system, or I can get a lot of biomass. Of course, as I say, because this today talk was quite short, so I cannot explain all, but definitely like oxygen, managing the, the dynamic gas and the water gas, these are all very, very important. So it's not about investment, it's all about understanding your need. And of course, if you want to harvest 5 kilo, you invest for 5 kilo. If you want to harvest 20 kilo, so you invest for 20 kilo.
Thank you very much, Farshad. So I carry on. We have a couple of additional questions coming in. One from Philip Jackson, and that's for you, Mattias. To what reason do you attribute the very different level of aquaculture growth in Africa relative to other developing regions? Do you think this is basically due to the level of governmental support, access to capital, hygiene in route to market, and so on? If you could comment on this question, Mattias.
Yes, thank you very much for this question. And maybe just to complement what Dr. Farshad said on the last question, of course, he was referring to the more intensive systems of shrimp farming, but we see so many important tools out there, including digital tools and information, but also low-tech solutions for less intensive systems that have a lot of potential, and things like the digital tools, but also solar power to reduce energy costs and things like that are hugely important. So this question was about the lesser growth in Africa and what may be the possible reasons and what we can do about it. And in the presentation, I did say that Africa is the continent where we have the most reason for concern, because it's actually the only continent where where the growth will not catch up with the population growth and with the growing demand. So in fact, we'll have a decline in the availability of fish per caput. And why is that? Well, as I just said, it mainly has to do with a fast-growing population and an increasing demand for fish and fish products. At the same time, I think there is a lot of hope and reason to believe that things will be going well, because progress has been tremendous in Africa. There are many good examples of how small and medium enterprises have flourished because the framework conditions, the enabling conditions in countries have improved a lot, and that starts from a better governance and the introduction and better aquaculture national plans and all the way to facilitating imports, making inputs cheaper, and because the feeds, as you will very much know, make up such a large proportion of the production costs, with up to 60%. And in many African countries, a key problem has been that the feeds are being imported and therefore are a very costly factor in the whole production process, and that has been a big problem for many operations. Now, at the same time, I would like to say, and staying with that issue of feeds, maybe just as an example, that we do also have a responsibility there on how we influence things from a governance point of view. Because, as we all know, there are these very important, more intensive systems that Dr. Farshad has demonstrated so nicely in his presentation. But at the same time, there are so many systems and species feeding low in the food chain that need such a low level of technology and equipment, etc., including a lower need for costly feeds. So I sometimes think it's amazing that we seem to have forgotten that there is something like a green water technology where you can actually raise a good crop of fish, tilapia, for example, with very basic methods and basically just using inorganic fertilizers, but it requires that the producer does have a certain knowledge. Again, what came out so nicely in Dr. Farshad's presentation is that all these ratios, the CN ratio, the NP ratio, the management of the pH and so on, that is of course both true for more sophisticated systems, but also for less sophisticated systems. And we cannot expect any farmer just to deal with the system without the good knowledge and good training and capacity building. So there's a lot to do there. So I think there's a lot of hope for what is being done in Africa, how the aquaculture development process is taking place. And I maybe stop here and we can go deeper in follow-up questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mattias. And actually, you are going to have to go a little bit deeper in that question because we have an additional comment for you. I think that comes from a different angle, but still about the pathogens. So I think the first question was about how can we protect the growth of aquaculture from potential pathogens. And here the question is more from an environmental impact of aquaculture. Do you think that the only way to protect natural population from the dispersal of pathogens in aquaculture will be to basically farm them on land, meaning high investment and so on? If you have a comment on this one.
Yes, and thanks again for this question. I think in general terms, it's inevitable that as systems become more intensified, your risks increase. And obviously pathogens are one of the big risks that we have in aquaculture. So in our reviews, what came out was interestingly that external factors such as climate change and COVID-19 are now the bigger factors for the sector, but it very much used to be the internal factors and such as aquatic biosecurity and pathogens, and that will of course continue to be so. I don't think that this intensification sorry, the question was that maybe there is more of a shift from some systems to others. I think the diversity of the various systems that we have out there is very important to maintain. The many species that we have in aquaculture, with about 500 species being out there, these diverse systems from marine environments to tropical rice fields. I think this diversity in itself has a lot of strength, and it allows growth, and it also allows resilience. So, for example, when we had the discussion about the regional review in North America, one of our panelists there, he described very nicely how he was so much affected, in this case, not of disease or pathogens, but it was COVID-19, but the same will apply for pathogens. He was severely hit for his mollusk operation, and he basically had to throw away the whole harvest because the distribution channels were not there anymore. Now, at the same time, what saved him financially and economically was that he had a seaweed operation going on, and he was able to continue with the seaweed operation, dry the seaweeds, rent big barns for the drying operations, etc. in order to continue with his business. So this diversity of systems and diversities of different levels of intensification as well, diversity of using plants as well as animals, in a way helps us a lot to also increase the resilience of the sector. So at the same time, what also came out very clearly in all the reviews really is that disaster risk preparedness is a critical issue for the aquaculture sector, and we have to do much more than is currently being done in order to have in order to be prepared for risks and disasters when it comes to aquaculture planning and management. And I do think very important activities in this regard are happening, are going on, and will help the sector tremendously in the future.
Thank you very much, Mattias. And for all the audience, please continue to send your question to the Q&A section here of the presentation, and we will do our best to make sure the speaker can give you an answer. We still have another 30 minutes that we can use as we need in order to offer the opportunity for those very nice speakers to give you an answer. I have a question for you, Farshad, from the participant here. Which countries are using a mixotrophic system? What is the cost of using this system? And maybe at the same time, you can tell us a little bit about the performance of tilapia in brackish waters.
Okay, maybe I answer the tilapia one first. You see, this is a problem we have. Sometimes people confuse between EC and salinity. So, of course, the water that contains very high salinity definitely has very high EC, but sometimes you can have a fresh water that has a very high EC. For growing the tilapia, I can grow in a very, very high salinity. We have been growing tilapia in like 30 ppt or so. In fact, it's much more nicer. They have better meat quality, and I don't see any problem. The only key factor is that you must increase the salinity in a slowly, like 2 ppt per day. That's what we usually do. So currently I have some like 6 days old tilapia in my farm. So when they reach to the like maybe 20 days, 25 days, then we start to increase the salinity every day around 2 ppt, 3 ppt. And within 10 days, you can adopt them to the 25, 30 ppt. And there is no problem. They can grow very well. At least the species that I'm working is a red tilapia. The next question about the mixotrophic system. Okay, mixotrophic system has been used in many countries. I have a lot of friends and customers that they are in India, in Thailand, in Malaysia, I don't know, in Indonesia, in Vietnam. The point is here, you see, when I was patenting this mixotrophic, it is not about a protocol of the farming. It is about the concept. So the name is there. When you talk about mixotrophic, you're talking about the different trophic of the culture system. So you have for example, heterotroph, you have autotroph, you have chemotroph, you have chemophotoautotroph. So all these trophic which are the way of the consuming of the energy. Like you have microorganisms that they consume, they utilize organic carbon, some they utilize inorganic carbon. How to manage this, how to put up all these things together to get the biomass that you want. You see, I'm a farmer, and I learned that the most important thing to me is biomass. I never talk about number, I never talk about the weight. Biomass is the multiple of the weight and the number. So it is very important that we learn how to, and what we are doing in a mixotrophic system is nothing rather than managing the environment for the target species. So if you have the water that contain 1 kilogram fish per square meter per cubic meter, or 100 kilogram fish per cubic meter, of course the water dynamic and gas dynamic is totally different. So when you are looking at the water with 100 kilo fish, you have a very high and a big amount of the energy input which is come through the feed and your waste. But when you have a 1 kilo fish, of course, your input of energy and waste is much more less. So what is our job? That's what we create. We call it circular economy of aquaculture. In the traditional farming, I mean, when I say traditional, I mean old thinking, people try to remove this waste, spending energy to remove this waste. But what I am doing now, I'm trying to feed this waste to another species. So at the end of the day, I will cut down the energy to the lowest possible, because we know by right, the system that contain higher amount of energy is more vulnerable to the changes compared to the low level of energy. So basically in aquaculture, if you want to speak like in a point of the physics, what we do, we lower the energy in our system. So mixotrophic system is nothing rather than managing the water, managing your organic matter, managing your gas, and creating an environment based on your biomass for your target species. That's what I can say.
Thank you very much, Farshad. I don't see any new question, additional question coming on the Q&A. Farshad, Mattias, do you have any last word you would like to tell the participant before I announce the program for tomorrow?
I don't know. For me, I think would like to say thank you for all the participants and also for the WAS that organizing this meeting. And I hope to see all of you next year during our show from 14 to 18 of June 21 in Singapore. We all welcome you here and hope all these problems today we have will be over, and we will have a much more better situation that we can meet face to face. I think there is another question.
There's another question coming in. Mattias, maybe you will let me have a look. Maybe that's a question for Dr. Leon. Dr. Leon, we have a question about Singapore. So maybe you have a chance to tell us a little bit more. So Singapore has a lot of fish farm in the northern Strait of the Johor, calm, slow-moving water body. So the feces and waste food do not slow away or are not necessarily being flushed away very quickly. Does this affect the sustainable intensity of farm in Singapore? Is there something that is can be done to increase the productivity in this area?
Thank you, Gullian. We've been actually trying to manage this problem for the last few years. Basically, we have a new initiative to try to increase the productivity of our farms in the northern straits. You are right that these farms, there's a problem with pollution. So we're trying to actually increase this farm so that they become sustainable, environmentally sustainable. Basically, we're trying to reduce the use of confectionery, reduce the use of waste food, to actually try to push these farms towards the use of pelleted feed, and also to have what you call environment plans to actually reduce the waste in the water. So yes, the Singapore Food Agency is trying to push all these farms towards cleaner, green practices to try and actually become more environmentally sustainable. But I think this will take time, and this is part of our general plan to actually transform local fish industry in Singapore. As you heard me talk about earlier, Singapore has a new plan called the 30 by 30 to try and produce 30% of our nutrition by the year 2030. So part of this plan is actually to increase production for aquaculture, which is one of the pillars of our plan. And we want to actually not only increase productivity, but also to reduce the environmental pollution. So yes, these things are being addressed. And among using pelleted feed, environment plans, these are the things that we want to actually do to reduce the pollution of the environment, especially the Straits of Johor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Leon. Dr. Mattias, would you like to add a last word for this now?
Yes, thank you so much, and maybe just to say, certainly say thank you very much to the organizers, to the World Aquaculture Society, the Singapore Food Agency for organizing this webinar. Of course, I had very much hoped to be with you all in Singapore this December. That's not possible, but definitely I'm hoping to be with you all in mid-June in a presential conference or maybe a hybrid conference, whatever it will be. And then maybe I just wanted to say one final thing and a final thank you to my colleagues who have and to the lead authors of these reviews who have done such an excellent job in putting together this information, and in fact are still doing so. And you know, we live in an interconnected world, as the pandemic very heavily shows us every day. And if you would ask me if there were just two things that I would want to highlight with regard to the achievement of the SDGs and this decade of implementation that we have now with these few years left up to 2030, it would be gender and it would be nutrition. And these being representative of all the cross-cutting issues that affect us so much, and gender, because for women and for youth there is so much in aquaculture. Women are disproportionately highly represented in the sector, and are very important, especially in the post-harvest part of the production. And there's so much that we can gain from putting more emphasis on the gender issue and on the nutrition issue, because it's the same women that are engaged in aquaculture operations that will bring home the good message of nutritious and safe food fish for the benefits of the families and family members. So I just wanted to mention this once more, because we sometimes tend to very much go into the details of aquaculture, and that's of course natural and normal because that's where our heart is. But we are part of these broader food systems, and we can only achieve the SDGs if we look really at the interconnectedness of all of them and of the aquaculture sector with the other sectors. So with that, once again, thank you so much, and thanks to especially to our lead authors who have given me the opportunity to present, if you like, on their behalf, these what we consider important findings, and with what will hopefully help us on the path to achieve the 2030 agenda. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mattias. And I was about to wrap up and close up, but I see we have one last question. So I will ask Farshad quickly to answer the last one. So what is the max EC for tilapia without reducing growth?
Okay,
you have an answer.
I think maybe my friend can type that is he a tilapia farmer in a freshwater area or not, because in our system we usually look at the salinity and we use a PPT. But if you want to go by EC, electrode conductivity, it's not much very far from each other, but sometimes when we talk about EC, it can be up to even 2,000, 1,500. But the key is here, what is the impact of salinity, or even EC represent the mineral ion in the system. So what is the concept of this in a tilapia farming or any other freshwater or saltwater or marine water farming, is that usually animals, they respond to the having a mineral in them, because salt also is a mineral. Seawater contains 75% NaCl, the rest is like magnesium, calcium, potassium, and all these minerals. And these minerals cause impact on the osmoregulation, and they are very important for the such as like phytoplanktons and others. The chlorophyll has a molecule of the magnesium in the center of the chlorophyll, you can see. So all these minerals are important. So when it comes to the fish, when the salinity goes up, what usually happens? The fish, they have to, just imagine that The outside you have a very high concentration, inside you have less concentration. So the water start to go out. Basically, when you put the fish from a fresh water to the seawater, the gills start to collapse. It's just like opposite when you put from the seawater to the fresh water, the gills start to burst. So this is what one of the things that, you know, high salinity require, or high EC require higher energy level for the fish or shrimp. And then you have to compensate that with a better feed quality. So you need to have like a higher fat or higher lipid, because lipid is the source of energy in your feed. So these are all really are very complicated, system, but we can really discuss and see that what is that you have, like in terms of EC, what is your numbers, because I'm sure you are a tilapia farmer, that you are taking your water most likely from underground, and that's why you have a very high EC. For us, we are using seawater because it's a part of my system, so we have a high salinity. But generally, as I say, if you compensate the feed and you give the better feed, the impact of the higher EC or higher salinity would be offset. We have another 2 questions here. What is that? How does a biofloc system fare against the mixotrophic system? Okay, published.
All right, so we have more questions coming. So Farshad, if you give me a second, I will repeat them for everyone. So everyone has a chance to access it. We still have time, so I want to make sure that we use the time for our speakers as good as possible. So Farshad, we have 2 questions. How does heterotrophic biofloc system fare against mixotrophic system in shrimp farming? And what is the minimum scale required in terms of production to implement a system similar to what you presented, as countries such as Thailand and Vietnam rely heavily on the small-scale farmer for aquaculture production?
Okay. I mean, the first question, Mr. Ganesh, I want to tell you that when we talk about heterotroph, you see biofloc, the people that promote and they do biofloc, or we are doing the, I'm doing the mixotrophic, we are more or less following the similar concept. But the difference is here, mixotrophic has a very clear guideline in terms of managing the phytoplankton, managing the bacteria, managing the NP ratio, managing the CN ratio. But in the biofloc system, we don't do all those things. In biofloc, we don't manipulate the bacteria. We just by working on the carbon or nitrogen, which some people add sugar, some people increase the amount of the feed, so they manage the biofloc. And to be very frank, so far, I haven't seen myself, this is not to be, I'm not opening an argument here, but I haven't seen any successful, only purely traditional biofloc system work in our industry, in the industrial scale has been, produce result. Because sometimes the problem is not that you will have a flock under the mixotrophic system, but in the mixotrophic system, we manage phytoplankton at the earliest stage, and then we move and manage bacteria at the late stage. We look after the NP ratio by the color of the water. We look at the CN ratio by managing the carbon, which is the basically organic carbon, and also inorganic carbon, because we have to manage the autotroph bacteria. This can take another 3 hours to discuss here, but definitely these 2 are very similar, but I can say biofloc, it can be just a small part of the mixotrophic system. Mixotrophic system is definitely much more bigger picture compared to the biofloc alone. Okay, that's one thing. Then the second things that I can see people asking about the similar system in Vietnam, or, it's definitely possible. I mean, like one of the things that I have done in Singapore, it doesn't mean that we have invested too much money here. No, I have told many of my friends, when you are doing the farming in a country like Singapore, because you have so much limitation, so it leads you to the innovation. So basically in Singapore, we don't have enough water, we don't have enough, land, we don't have equipment, we don't have anything. So we try to minimize our, complication in our system. So we create a system that absolutely it can be, applied in a country. I'm very familiar with Thailand. I'm very familiar with Vietnam. We can definitely do that. But the point is here, you have to be able to manage your cost of production, which in our system, the cost of the production is not very high, because eventually at the end of the day, imagine if I'm producing the 20 kilogram shrimp in 1 square meter and a normal farmer producing 1 kilo, we definitely, of course, we may have a bit additional equipment or tools or, effort to put in the system to maintain and sustain 20 kilo. But in the other hand, we save a lot of money in infrastructure, in, the chance of losing the animal because of the very big farm and no tight biosecurity. So there are a lot of, additional discussion here that we can talk, but generally, absolutely it's possible to, to locate and to, install the similar system in those countries, which we are working with some other, other farmer, other companies that they are interested. So we try to do that, yes.
Thank you very much, Farshad, and thank you everyone, to all the participants for all these questions. We have been having discussion from a very big pictures, talking about the SDGs and how we are all basically working toward ensuring that aquaculture can support this global objective, all the way down to, I would say, very technical question and answers from Farshad, and very local stories as well from Dr. Leong. I want to thank all of you. In a couple of seconds, you will see the screen with the date of the conference in Singapore next June. But before that, you need to remember that in the next 2 days, we also have the continuity of this webinar. So tomorrow at 2 o'clock, we have a session starting on disease in shrimp aquacultures with 2 presentation and answer. And then this is followed by a session on food safety, where we'll talk about accreditation and plastic in aquaculture. So I'm looking forward to see all of you online tomorrow. And I want to thank all of you for joining the webinar. And I also want to thank all our technical teams sitting in the US, making sure that we don't have any technical issues during those presentations. So thank you very much, everyone. And I'm looking forward to talk to you tomorrow. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.